I am Terry with Total Life Pursuit, and you have found another video in the series of stewardship and self-care for pastors and ministry leaders. We're so glad that you're joining us today. I want to talk about family. Family is so important. Let's look at some statistics to start off, shall we? 65% of pastors feel they have not taken enough vacation time with their family over the last 5 years. 35% of pastors report the demands of the church denies them from spending time with their family. 24% of pastor families resent the church and its effects on their family. 80% pastors believe their pastoral ministry has negatively affected their families, and 33% said it was an outright hazard. 77% feel they do not have a good marriage. This is troubling. Now, I will say that these are older statistics, and there seems to be an upswing on all of this. However, these stats tell a story that we need to pay attention to. How many great preachers, teachers, prophets, evangelists, apostles, did I just name all the fivefold ministry? How many of those people have lost their families? There have been some really famous people that I'm not going to name because I don't like naming people like that. Okay, let's just think there are people that we know that lost their kids because they gave their life not to Jesus, but to the ministry. And this really points to our understanding of our mission on the earth, which is going to be the following video. We're going to talk about mission. But what is more important than the great gifts that God has given you? I mean, what's the word say? In Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 22, he who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor of the Lord, or from the Lord. I'd like to think that she who finds a husband finds some favor too. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is, your spouse is a gift from God. So what are we going to do with the gift? Now, let's talk about kids. In Psalm 127, verses 3 through 5, behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb, a reward. My friends, before we get to verse 4, they're a reward for us. Verse 4. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies at the gates. Now, I'd like to think with 8 children, I got a full quiver. And I'm feeling pretty blessed. And my enemies at the gates better watch out, because I got some good, healthy young men. You know what I'm saying? But that's really not my point. My point is they're a heritage. They're a blessing. They're a reward. And we simply can't work 5 to 7 nights a week at the church or in ministry and expect our kids are going to be okay with it. They want daddy or mommy time. So they need us present. They need us intentional. And we do not live in this agrarian society where we need to have children so we have farm hands. You know what I'm saying? That's not what we live. Although I will say, as a small church pastor at times, and seeing other small church pastors, their kids are like, Oda, you're on the setup team, you're on the worship team, you're on the kids church team, you're on this team, they're on that. It's like we're having kids so we have workers in the ministry. Personally, I had kids, so I had more people at the church, and we had grandkids, and man, I was populating the church. Church Growth 201. Okay, I'm kidding. Relax, people. Relax. They are kids. Some people think that they're supposed to be like Jesus at 12. They need our protection. They need our love. They're kids. So, yeah, we can promote them. We can have them work with us in the ministry. Of course, all my kids did, but they did because they wanted to. And when they didn't want to, they didn't have to. There are benefits. Well, let's first talk about the downside. The pressures of being a PK. There are a lot of pressures. My wife is a PK. She felt the pressure, not a lot of it, because her mom and dad didn't allow that pressure to load on her, nor did they allow other people to load that pressure. I mean, there has to be some positives for being a PK. And let's create some. Why don't we create some? Travel with them, have some fun, do things that only PKs could do. I mean, our denomination used to have like PK retreats, and that was so awesome. They felt special, and they need to feel special. One of the things that I did was sometimes when I traveled and my wife couldn't go with me, well, they traveled with me. We had fun together. It was a gas. Now, I have some pretty great kids. I mean, they're not perfect, but I think they're pretty great kids. And people ask me, well, how did you do it? How did you raise them? How did you do it as a pastor? And, at one time when I was, just building the church, or Jesus builds the church, I get it. But, I was working hard. I had 4 jobs. That wasn't good. That wasn't a good time. I'm just saying I was busy. But my kids, they don't hate the church. And people ask me, well, how'd you do it? Well, I'm going to give you 3 things. If you like them, use them. If you don't like them, come up with your own. You got to come up with something. Number 1, be the same at church as you are at home, or be the same at home as you are at church. When you go to church, you're all happy. Hey, brother, how you doing? You're in praise and worship. You're dancing around, having a great time. Woo, praise the Lord. And then at home, you're kind of an ogre. You're hot. You're angry. You're quick, tempered. You're terse. You're sour. That's not going to work for the kids. Number 2, give them an experience with Jesus for themselves. They can't ride your coattails to heaven, and they can't experience the depth of his presence that I've experienced because I'm in the room. They have to experience it on their own. Many times it's when I'm not in the room. Sometimes it's been when I'm in the room. The reality is I would have guest speakers come in that were powerful in spirit, just so my kids would get an experience with Jesus, because they needed their own experience. And number 3 is that you need to have a parenting philosophy that guides you in every avenue of parenting. You just can't hope it all works out, or maybe this will work, or I don't know, or just respond to the moment. Sit down with your spouse and create parent philosophies. You may not be able to get them all right when you want them, but you should be able to get some. And then as things come up, have another meeting with your spouse and create a philosophy that's going to guide you. Your children are going to have activities, and your spouse being there, mom, dad, whatever, is great. It really is great. But they need you there. They don't need just one parent. They need both parents there. And I submit to you the things that you may not think are very important, the plays or the recitals or the sporting events, because they have so many of them, they think they're important. And when you're not there, that speaks. So be there. Make it happen every opportunity you can. So one of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to decide how many nights a week you're going to be away from the home and at home. I had a guardrail 3 nights a week. You think 3 nights a week? Oh my gosh, how could you do 3 nights a week? I mean, there's Bible studies and there's meetings and there's this team meeting and that team meeting and worship nights and worship practice and counseling and board and council meetings and mentoring and discipleship and prayer meetings. The list is endless. How only 3? Well, because I have a family and they needed my attention. Pastor, leader, your family needs your attention. They need you home. Somebody else is going to have to take care of some of that stuff. I've seen PKs leave the church, and I've seen PKs leave Jesus. It's a serious deal. I don't want to be the cause. You don't want to be the cause of your kids leaving the church or Jesus. Look, it's not that hard for you to show them your love and your care. It's just not that hard. Time. Time. Put in the time. When you're with them, give them your attention. Look them in the eye. Love on them. Touch them. Rub their heads, or I don't know. I don't know what you people do with your kids. But you got to touch them, at least a high five or a hug. And even if they recoil, give them a hug anyways. Know their lives. Have a lot of fun with them. The problem is ministry is so good and right and righteous and important and needed. And I'm so needed at church. Yeah, but you're needed at home. And by the way, your spouse, she needs a date night. She needs you to take her out on a date. You might say, how often? I don't know. We had a weekly date night. Weekly? I don't have that kind of time. Weekly date night. Are you kidding? No, I'm not kidding. Let me ask you this. When you dated your spouse, did you date, I don't know, once every 10 days, once every 14 days? Or did you have a few more dates than that? If you want to keep the passion alive, then you got to date. I'm not saying go out every other night, but I am saying think about once a week having a night that you have for your spouse. And your kids will learn, and because they're watching you, they'll learn how a wanted and desired person in the ministry with so much to do takes time to make sure the passion in the marriage sticks. All right, here's some date night rules. Are you ready? Number 1, don't talk about church and ministry more than 10 minutes. That's it. Number 2, avoid contentious topics. Don't start some kind of fight. All right, number 3, put it on the calendar. You got to put your date night on the calendar. You just can't have like date night maybe if it happens by chance because I'm not doing anything else. Put it on the calendar. Number 4, be creative. Do something creative. Don't go to the same taco place every single week. Do something crazy sometimes that'll bless your spouse. Number 5, ditch technology. You can make a little rule. Hey, the first one to touch their phone during dinner has to do 10 push-ups or 10 squats, whatever. I love it. We do that. We do that when we go out. Well, we don't do it, but it is a fun thing to do. Is when you go out, whoever touches their phone first pays for the dinner. When you're in a group, not with. When I'm with my wife, I'm always paying for the dinner, so it doesn't even work. So might as well check the score. You know what I'm saying? So we're not going to do that. And the last one, have 2 to 5 questions that you can ask each other. What? Questions? Yeah. Because as you grow old together, sometimes you just don't have a lot to talk about if you go out every week. So have some questions. Look them up. Google questions to ask your spouse on a date night. There's plenty there. The other thing that people have a hard time with, especially pastors and ministry leaders, is I don't have any money. I got you. Now you can Google this. There's plenty of cheap date night ideas, or I should say inexpensive date night ideas. Here's a few. You ready? Watch the sunset. It's free. Have a picnic. Test drive an expensive car. Go on a walk. Go to the park and go on the swings. Grab a coffee. Park on a vista and make out. Oh, now don't be all like churchy on me. You probably did it at some point. Go make out with your spouse. You can stay in and send the kids somewhere safe. You could watch a movie, have a romantic picnic, play a game, get a game that has questions to answer, especially. Plan your vacation. Make some special drinks with exotic flavors. Doesn't have to be alcoholic. There's plenty of things you could do without alcohol, drinks that would just have exotic flavors to them. It'd be super fun to make together. So those are just a few things. There are hundreds of ideas for date night. What kind of plan can we all make to ensure our marriage and our kids are feeling loved? The plan has to be on your calendar. It just can't be a wish. Look, your family needs your love, and you're the perfect one designed to give it to them. You got this. Look, I hope this was a blessing to you. I hope you work some of these worksheets, and I hope you have a great date night. This is Terry with Total Life Pursuit. We'll see you next time.